Hello, and welcome to the North Carolina Museum of Dolls, Toys, and Miniatures. My name is Beth Nance, and I'm one of the founding members and currently serve as the executive director for the museum. Today, we're going to talk about a program on a series of dolls created by Madame Alexander in 1976 to celebrate the bicentennial of America. Madame Alexander realized that the First Ladies are unofficial but very important members of each presidential administration. These ladies have been national trendsetters, leaders, pioneers in education, devoted mothers, and loyal partners, and they've also been political advocates and public servants. Before there were rock stars or movie stars, there were the First Ladies. The Madame Alexander series consists of 38 dolls. They begin with Martha Washington and end with Pat Nixon. The dolls are 14 inches in height, they have rooted hair and applied eyelashes. Each of the dolls was created based on one of the four sculpts that Madame Alexander was currently using in her production. While the faces are based on current molds that Madame Alexander had, you can see from this sample of dolls here that she took a lot of attention to detail in the clothing that each of the First Ladies wore, as well as the hairstyle. These dresses are very special because they are a representation of either an inaugural or a very elegant gown worn by a First Lady or a presidential hostess. Clothing, especially on dolls, can give a sense of a person's physical presence. It helps make even the most distant historical figure feel alive and present. Clothing and accessories can illustrate the personal style of a First Lady. They can also represent the events to which they were worn, from inaugural balls, state dinners, and public appearances to everyday life in the White House. The artistry of Madame Alexander in capturing the essence of each outfit worn by the wives of the presidents is undeniable. She was a leader and a star in the field of doll creation, with special attention to creating beautifully detailed clothing. All of the president's wives in this series reflect a little of the character of each actual person. Using the Madame Alexander dolls as a guide, let's take a look at several of these women and talk about their gowns and how they were influencers in the society of their day. Let's start with the most modern, recognizable, and fashionable of all the First Ladies in this series. Jacqueline Kennedy, who served as First Lady from 1961 to 1963, was interested in arts and culture as a result of her upbringing and education. She was raised in New York City and educated at Vassar College as well as George Washington University. She worked in journalism until her marriage to John F. Kennedy prior to his presidency. They had two small children in the White House who brought a feeling of family to the office. Jackie was known for fashion, style, and her social ability to communicate well with anyone. After her husband's death, Jackie worked to establish the Kennedy Library in Boston. Her time was short in the White House, but the memory of her time as First Lady is long-lasting in the hearts and minds of the public. The off-white sleeveless gown this doll wears is Madame Alexander's interpretation of the original gown Jackie wore to President Kennedy's 1961 inaugural ball. The original gown, which is on display at the Smithsonian National Museum of History, is made of silk chiffon. The strapless bodice under the chiffon covering is encrusted with brilliant jewels and embroidered with silver thread. Ethel Frankow of Bergdorf Custom Salon designed and made the dress based on sketches and suggestions from Miss Kennedy. It was worn with a matching cape. After the ball, the Washington Post reported that Mrs. Kennedy's career as a major fashion influence was beginning impressively.
Mamie Dowd Eisenhower, First Lady from 1953 to 1961. It was said that Ike won the election, but Mamie won the affection of the American voters. Mamie truly enjoyed the role of First Lady and attracted women into politics and to the polls. By the 1950s, women were casting ballots in equal numbers to men. She had Mamie for First Lady buttons printed in the re-election campaign. Her legacy was entertaining at the White House on a large scale. She was also known for her glamour mixed with folksiness. Mamie was famous for her bangs and her love of all things pink. In fact, Mamie was in the White House when Barbie, another famous lady whose signature color is pink, first made her debut. Light pink was the color Mamie wore to her husband's 1953 inaugural ball. The shimmering ball gown was made of the finest French peau de soie, a soft satin weave cloth of silk. Designer Nettie Rosenstein completed the look by having more than 2,000 rhinestones hand-embroidered onto the dress. The rhinestones were 4 different sizes and various shades of pink. You will notice that Madame Alexander did a remarkable job replicating Mamie's light pink sparkling gown and matching shoes. Also note how the bodice is gathered and twisted in at the shoulder line and accented with the rhinestones just as the original. Madame Alexander completed the look by replicating the hand-beaded purse Mamie carried. This light pink color eventually became known as Mamie Pink and was donned by most women in the 1950s and early 60s.
Anna Eleanor Roosevelt was born on October 11, 1884, in Manhattan, and from an early age she preferred to be called by her middle name, Eleanor. Her parents died before she was 10 years old, and as a grown woman, this experience helped her become a strong advocate of the underprivileged, even though she came from a wealthy family. She was the niece of Teddy Roosevelt. In 1905, she married her 5th cousin once removed, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Eleanor became a devoted politician's wife, as well as his caregiver when Franklin was afflicted with polio. Her experience as a volunteer in the Red Cross during World War I was helpful to her as a caregiver. She helped FDR campaign for presidency in 1933. He served 4 terms, making her the longest-serving First Lady from 1933 to 1945. During World War II, she provided anxious Americans with needed reassurance by visiting families at home and troops stationed abroad. After FDR's death in 1945, Eleanor was appointed a special delegate to the United Nations. She worked tirelessly to promote programs begun by her husband, as well as to improve the status of women in the world. Madame Alexander selected the short-sleeved, floor-length peach gown worn during FDR's 3rd presidential inaugural ball to replicate for this series. Many would say that Madame Alexander's beautiful rendition of this amazing First Lady, her class and nature, can be seen in this doll's design. The peach-colored gown is accented with gorgeous pearl, jewel, and brocade borders. The brocade outlines the sleeves and the entire front and back neck of the gown and replicate the design on the bodice of the original gown. 2 long Cleopatra-style swags fasten at the shoulders and flank down the entire back of the dress. A simple single strand of pearls encircles the doll's neck. The front of the doll's hair is styled in a full swoop, just as Eleanor always wore it. Even the back of the doll's hair has attention to detail as it's styled in a classic Victory style roll.
Lou Henry Hoover. Lou Henry Hoover was the wife of President Herbert Hoover and served as the First Lady of the United States from 1929 to 1933. Lou loved foreign languages and adventure. As a child, she was consciously raised by both parents in a manner unconventional for young girls of the era. Both parents encouraged her love of physical exercise and sports. She became the first woman at Stanford University to graduate in the man's field of geology. Lou met her husband at Stanford and they married in 1899. She advocated for the Girl Scouts of America and believed girls could gain self-reliance and self-esteem through social service and volunteerism. She was the first president's wife to speak on the radio, which she did especially during the Great Depression of 1929 and after. During their time in the White House, the Hoovers spent their own money on entertaining events, including the staff, because of the Depression economy. Lou spoke many languages, and her skill was valued by other cultures. Her fair-mindedness, as well as her extraordinary degree of public service, landed her on the cover of Time magazine, the first time that any First Lady was so honored. She initiated numerous innovations that truly helped to modernize the public role of First Lady and extended it more overtly into the public realm than it had ever been previously. After her years as the president's wife, she and Herbert retired and moved back to California and continued her generous giving to projects during the Depression until her death in 1944. Regarding fashion, Lou Hoover kept things simple. She usually wore American-made dresses, emphasizing the importance of cotton clothing to promote the cotton textile industry. However simple, her style was still very glamorous. She was the first Lady to be featured in Vogue magazine. Following the tradition, since the 1913 inauguration of Woodrow Wilson, there was no inaugural ball for the Hoovers. Instead, a private party known as Charity Ball was held. Knowing that Lou was recognized for her style, Madame Alexander created an ice blue ball gown for this portrait doll. The layered dress is belted and has a small train in the back. The bodice is accented with a cape-like style overlay that is decorated with 2 jewel-encrusted clasps. Lou always wore fashionable jewelry to accent her outfits. This gown is no exception. In addition to the jewel-encrusted shoulder clasps, she wears a jewel and pearl brooch. Her strawberry blonde hair swirls around her face and is fashioned in a roll in back.
Edith Wilson was the second wife of President Woodrow Wilson and served as First Lady of the United States from 1915 to 1921. She married the widower Wilson in December 1915 during his first term as president. Edith did not have political experience, but she was smart and always had her husband's interests first. The U.S. was involved in World War I, and she learned to decode military and diplomatic messages for the cause. The 19th Amendment, allowing all women to vote in the U.S., was ratified during this time. Sadly, the war and the presidency took a toll on President Wilson's health, and he had a stroke that partially paralyzed him. Edith stepped in and became very involved in the everyday operations of the government. She called herself a steward of the government, but many referred to her this period as a regency. She is the only spouse that basically took over the government during sickness. Woodrow died 3 years after leaving the White House, but Edith continued to live in D.C. for 40 more years. The dress Madame Alexander designed for the Edith doll was a copy of a dress the First Lady wore in 1915 for a private dinner party at the White House. The original gown was made of black charmeuse satin and trimmed with beads, black velvet, and white net, and it was made from the House of Worth in Paris. Considering that the dress had to be mass-produced, Madame Alexander did a very good job of creating a design that was recognizable. She used velvet trim, white lace, and black and white tulle to accent the intricate design of the gown. A swath of black fabric with silver dots makes up the train for the back of this gown. A diamond choker accents the neck on this doll.
Frances Folsom Cleveland. Frances Cleveland was the First Lady of the United States from 1886 to 1889 and again from 1893 to 1897 as the wife of President Grover Cleveland. Becoming First Lady at age 21, she remains the youngest wife of a sitting president. Frances was 21 years old when she married 48-year-old Grover Cleveland. Their White House wedding was the first held in the Executive Mansion in 1886. As a political spouse, she held weekly receptions so that people could meet the president. The public could not get enough stories about Mrs. Cleveland's activities, fashions, and then later, her children. Beautiful Frances Cleveland was so popular with advertisers during his campaigns that her image appeared on everything from pillboxes to playing cards. She was known as Mrs. President Cleveland. Frances Cleveland was quite beautiful, and she was known for being a rule breaker and caused many controversies when she continually wore dresses that showed her bare neck, shoulders, and arms. According to Time magazine, the Women's Christian Temperance Union got so frustrated with her clothing, they issued a petition asking her to stop wearing these types of dresses. She ignored them. She was so popular with the public that she is considered the first Lady to become a media sensation. Madame Alexander dressed this portrait doll in a very conservative pink, short-sleeved, close-fitting Victorian-style dress. Lace accents drip around the sleeves. The brocade-looking fabric has a V-shaped waistband, which is red in color. Matching red bows and sparkling crystals complete the scoop neck bodice. As expected, the ensemble is finished with a single-strand pearl choker. Here's what was said about Frances in her time. Occasionally, a First Lady becomes a star. When Frances Folsom married President Grover Cleveland in 1886, she became the youngest First Lady in decades and a media sensation.
Lucy Webb Ware Hayes was the wife of President Rutherford B. Hayes and served as the 19th First Lady of the United States from 1877 to 1881. She was in fact the first wife of a president to be widely referred to as the First Lady by the press. She was also the first First Lady to hold a college degree. When President Hayes came into office, she was hailed as a new woman. But she did not support women's right to vote, which was a huge issue at the time. Her support would have been contrary to her social code and her concept of the role of a political wife. She did, however, set the standard for the nation as a hostess and a homemaker. The adoration and respect she earned by the public and her family were due to her continued efforts to help other people, her sincere interest in politics, and the extent of her education. Her example promoted the future status of women in the American social and intellectual structure. She was a cheerful hostess and began the annual White House Easter egg roll, which is still bringing thousands of children to the White House lawn each spring. She was the one with She has been one of the most popular first ladies and was deeply mourned by the nation when she died in 1889. Lucy Hayes wore this gold damask and cream satin gown to the White House New Year's reception in 1880. It was made by Mrs. M.A. Connolly, a New York dressmaker. In true Victorian fashion, the gown is drenched in layers of lace and decorative trim. The bustle dress adds fullness to the form and supports the yards of fine drapery that make up this gown. In addition, the bustle keeps the skirt from dragging the ground. A very large bow accents the back of the dress. As you can see, Madame Alexander has done a wonderful job of capturing the likeness of this gown.
Dolly Madison was First Lady from 1809 to 1817. Dolly was raised in a strict Quaker household, but she knew how to make the White House a warm and inviting place. Born in North Carolina in 1768, Dolly moved to Philadelphia as a teenager. She married James Madison in 1794 when he was a U.S. representative. She established the importance of the White House hostess, which continues throughout the tenure of each successive president. Her weekly gatherings of politicians, diplomats, and locals became very fashionable to attend, both socially and for the clothing styles. Dolly is best known for overseeing the evacuation of the White House during the march into Washington by the British soldiers in the War of 1812. She saved many important documents as well as the full-length portrait of George Washington done by artist Gilbert Stuart. She was long remembered after the couple left the White House, and at her funeral she was called our First Lady for half a century. This was the beginning of the term First Lady. Dolly Madison's embroidered silk satin dress and coat are a lovely cream color. The original was exquisitely hand-embroidered with birds and flowers. Brocade trim borders the coat, and it is a typical style of the late 1810s. As a former Quaker, Dolly Madison was used to wearing more modest clothing, but that changed when she left the faith. She then started wearing low-cut dresses made famous during the Napoleonic era that were rich in color with fabrics that made her look like a queen to spectators.
The nation's first ladies have influenced American history and culture since Martha Washington stepped into the role in 1789. Madame Alexander chose the famous first ladies to highlight in one of her special series because she knew these women were shining stars in their own right. To be a star, one must shine in your own light, follow your own path, and not worry about the darkness, for that is when the star shines brightest. We hope that you have enjoyed this virtual trip through our collection of famous first ladies at the North Carolina Museum of Dolls, Toys, and Miniatures, located in Spencer, North Carolina.